Howdy everyone, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of a multi-part series for Python utilizing PyQt5 and CSV, Sqlite3, and Excel with some system commands for moving stuff around thrown in as well. We'll also throw in a couple of controls for data flow. So greatly appreciate you coming back. If this is your first view and you are interested in how we did our user interface, you may want to go look at episode number 1. I did make a mistake in episode number 1, and we're correcting it right now, where I wanted to name these button 3 as opposed to button 2. So we've done that and saved it. We have quite a bit to get through and multiple other episodes coming up, so we'll go ahead and get started right away. There's a couple of things that we are going to want to add to our imports, first of all. So if we go back to the top of the file that we had working, which is this file right here, I had named it stockdb, and again, this is around utilizing stock data that's free off the internet, so we can have some good data sets to mess with. We're going to pull in date time, as we will need that, and we are bringing in Sqlite3. If you have not yet installed Sqlite, go to Sqlite, Sqlite.org, and download the binary for your system and install that. It's a very simple database system to use. If you already have MySQL set up, you can utilize that as well. It would take some different commands to drive the behavior that we're about to talk about. But Sqlite, this is going to be a very simple database that we're building, so I think that it'll work very well for us. It has the potential to be a lot of rows, but it's not going to be very many columns at all, and we're only going to use one table, so we're not going to have to do joins or anything like that in our SQL commands. So by all means, it's a simple one to use. So we're going to do that. Let's get Sqlite set up ourselves. I've already downloaded it, but I haven't yet. If you look here in my YouTube folder, you'll notice that I've added archive stock data as a folder, which has nothing in it, and it has new stock data, which has nothing in it, but I don't have a database here yet. So let's do that. So cd desktop YouTube, and then we can do Sqlite, and then like I said, we're going to use stock as ours, so stock.db is what I'm utilizing. So, I have to use Sqlite3, of course. And just like that, we've actually made our database. Now, rather than type this out and waste all the time doing so, I went ahead and just put this command, which is our create command, up here, and I'm going to leave it there because we're going to use that here in a minute too, but this is how, once you're in Sqlite, you can see all you have to do is type this. Remember, any kind of SQL statement always ends with semicolon, or it will fail. And just like that, we've created our database, and we've created a table called prices. And in there we have the exchange, which for me will be New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. Those are the two we'll pull in. Symbol, which is the symbol that we, that the stock is recognized as. So for instance, Apple is AAPL, right? IBM is IBM. Chase, I think, is C for JP Morgan Chase. Time string is what that stands for, and that's just date. And then we have open price, high price, low price, close price, and then total trades. All right, so that's what we're going to do there. To get out of the Sqlite command prompt here, hit Control-D on either a Mac, Apple, or a Linux computer. A Mac, Windows, or Linux computer. They all work the same that way. All right, so getting back to our program. So we've got our imports set up. Now we need to scroll down to our, we'll do a download here in the future. I've kind of got that in the back of my mind to do. But for right now, let's focus on, we'll get rid of that because I don't think I have it up here. Yeah, I don't, so we can get rid of that. I was just thinking about that the other day when I was looking at this again. So we will go to stockdb insert, where we left off last time. We're going to locally, if you will, import a couple of things. We don't want to necessarily pull them in for everything, so I didn't add it above. Instead, I'm just doing it if this method is called, okay? Import And some of this is where we get into our system moving of things. Import glob. We're going to want glob2 for this so we can find our files. All right, next we're going to define some paths to our folders. So we will go in and say, let's say current file path. And so this will be for our new data, which I just showed you. Users, dardeck, desktop, YouTube, and then new stock data. So that's that one. We'll go ahead and add that to the end of it just to make it simple for later. Otherwise we have to do a little plus sign and all that. So there's no sense doing all that. So then we can do new file path equals, and this is the same thing. I didn't need to add the new stock, but we can. And then we'll just come back here and we can do archived. Oh, come on. Let's get the typing working this morning. Archive stock data. All right, there we go. So there we've defined some paths that we're going to be using pretty regularly. We are going to come back to a rows. Let's just leave it at that for right now. We'll come back and fill that out once we've got an idea of what we want to do. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is when like I said before, if you didn't see episode 1 of this, you may get this file from anywhere. You may go download it. You may be getting it from an email. You may be getting it from an FTP. It could be coming from any place, this CSV file that we're going to be talking about. For me, I download this particular file, but again, this could be utilized for anything. But since I'm using a download, we know that our downloads all go to download folder. And since I'm using NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, I know they're all going to start with an N and they're CSV. So this is just using a wildcard character, right, to help figure that out. You'll notice I keep my download folder completely empty. When I download something, I get it out of there as quick as I can. I figure I download it for a reason. Let's go use it and put it where it belongs, or delete it if I don't need it anymore, or whatever. So that helps ensure that this will work a little cleaner. Now we have to get through our list. So glist is our glob list of in whatever.csv files. And so now we're going to go through them. And what we're going to do here is, helps if you put a colon after that, is we're going to separate the path from the file name. And then we're going to move the file, okay? So, don't want to do that, file name. All right, so then to do that, we're going to do head, tail, as two variables that are coming from the OS path split and utilizing the file. So file is in glist, so we got a file that starts with an N and ends with a CSV. We're running it through our list, and the first one comes through with the title, with the variable name file, and we split it out. We're going to grab the head, which is the path part, okay? So it's all of this all the way up to there, and then the tail is whatever our CSV file name is, okay? This is a great command to use for some things that we're going to be playing with here. So shutil move file from current file path plus tail, okay? So we're grabbing the file that we want from our current file path up here, and we're moving it, I should say, to our current file path up here, all right? Then that gives us an opportunity. So we've now moved it out of our download folder, okay, and moved it into our quote unquote working folder, our new stock data. And we'll keep that clean. It will only have recent data in it that hasn't yet been uploaded into the database. Once it's uploaded into the database, we're going to move it, get it out of there. Don't want it there anymore. We're going to go ahead and define a connection at this point. Yeah, let's do that. Go ahead and get the connection built. Documents. No. What am I doing here? Desktop. YouTube. Stock.db. There we go. That's better. All right, because we put our database into YouTube up here, right? Folder. Then we can start messing with this thing. So we go for file in os.list directory current file path if file ends with .csv. So those are the only files that we care about in this scenario. Let's go ahead and print it so we know what we're moving. I like to keep track of what the computer is actually doing for us. And then we care about just the first couple of characters, first 4 characters. And so keep in mind, remember when you're messing with lists, right? It's 0 is the first, and then the last one that lists, it actually doesn't grab it. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3 gives us our 4 positions. Now we're going to call that method above, insert rows, current file path plus file first con. So we're sending over the name of the first file, which is sitting in this new stock data folder, and then we're grabbing the first 4 characters, so NYSE or NASD, right, for NASDAQ and for New York Stock Exchange. And then we're seeing over our connection here. And we're doing that because in some of the other methods, we're going to use con as well. And so there's no sense doing that every time. All right, so, and then when it comes back, let's get that thing out of there. And this time we'll go use rename just to do something different. Current file path plus file, new file path plus file. So we're here. So first we're going to call insert rows, go up and do our voodoo up here, and then come back and move it from our new stock data to our archive stock data. All right. So that's good there. I think that, yes, I think that the next thing that we will want to do is come back to here, and we will want to close our connection. You always want to do that. You want to tell the user that you've actually accomplished your task, so they know that it's done. They're not waiting around for something to happen. And we should be good to go there. And just to make this clear, we'll go ahead and move all this down a little bit. So now we're going to go back up to our insert rows, and we will start working on what we actually want to accomplish with this process and interacting with Sqlite. So since we already defined our con and we're pulling it in, and by the way, I have to add those in here, but we know we're definitely going to want a cursor in order to make this work. Up here, we want file name, because that's the first thing that we sent up, and then exchange, we'll call it, because that's the NASDAQ New York Stock Exchange scenario, and then con, which we just utilized. All right, right there. So then we'll go with open, file name, read as CSV file. We can do it this way. Stay consistent. And then line reader, we'll say, equals CSV reader CSV file, and delimiter here that we're going to use is a comma. Now, if your file has commas in the data, it's not uncommon that it will be a pipe delimited, and that's that. So if that were the case, where we put this, you would put that. Okay, that'd be pipe delimited. It's still called a CSV file, but it's just pipe delimited. But they almost always, in fact, every time I've ever seen them, they always end with a CSV extension. All right, so that's our delimiter. So now for X in line reader, I know a lot of people don't like to use X, but this is simple stuff right here. Date object equals date time. And we want to get rid of the time aspect of it. So to do that, we will do X1, and then here's where we format or show what the format is that's coming to us. So %D means 2-digit day. %B means that it's coming over as a 3-character month. So JAN for January, FEB for February, for instance. If it was a 2-digit number, then you would use %M like Mike. So Y, and then capital Y like that is a 4-digit year. All right, now something I like to do right here is put back in, nope, that's not what I want. Forgot I'd copy and pasted already. So let's go grab our create statement again, just so we know what is in there in the order that it falls. So it makes it easy for us. DB, that's kind of our definition of our DB right there. So now we're going to define a tuple of information that we're going to feed into a SQL statement. This is where we actually load this thing up and start inputting information into the database. So the first thing is the exchange that we just pulled in from up here, right, which we grabbed from the file earlier. So exchange, and that's yeah, there we go. So one tuple exchange x0 date object. And then we're going to, so I'm just kind of following along with my path here, right? I knew exchange. The symbol we know is the very first character in our file that we download, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Date object is the date that we just defined up here, stripping out the time, right? So we're just going through what the expectation of information is. Float x2. So that's our open, and then float x3, float x4, float x5. That should be the end of our floats, because now we are to our total trades, which is not a float, that's a solid number. And it's indicating that I missed one somewhere, so let's see where I missed it. So that looks good. 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 Okay, maybe I just typed that by accident. All right, so there we go. Oh no, that's our tuple, sorry. Okay, so there's our tuple. All right, so now we're going to execute this. So so calling in our cursor, all right, C execute, insert into prices, which is the name of the table that we created, values, and now let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's our 8. And then to put in there, we're going to put in there one tuple. Okay, so it takes this all as a tuple, so you have to define it into a tuple and then feed the variable to fill in each one of these question marks. All right, so that's all done. So now we can say con commit, and this just updates it in case anything else is trying to get the data at the same time we're messing with it. So there's no conflicts. And then we're going to tell the world that we're done with it. All right. And that is that. So first, we need to grab a file. All right, I stepped away for just a minute to make sure we had some files to mess with. So you'll see I pulled in NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange files. And just to show you again, there's nothing in new stock data. There's nothing in archive stock data. We won't actually find anything in new stock data most of the time because we're going to move it right through, but we leave it there as a working directory in case something happens along the way. All right, so now that all that looks good, let's go double check everything that we've changed here before we get radical and actually run this. Import Sqlite3 looks good. Import date, that won't work. That's going to take a from date time, import date time. Sorry about that. Little syntax error. Okay, stockdb insert. That looks good. Our file paths look accurate. Our insert rows. Our date time, strip time. That looks good. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items. So that's good. That looks fine on the G list. Getting current file path with a tail, which is the file name. That looks good. Oh, hold on. Almost missed it. Sqlite3 right here. So that would have caused a crash. And everything else looks good. We're doing save. We're going to run it, see what happens. Python stockdb.py. We know that quit works because we've utilized that already. Insert, here we go. All right, so it found them. It popped out the files. That looks fantastic. Insert method completed. We go down to our downloads. There's nothing there any longer. Downloads is empty. New stock data, nothing there. Archive stock data, it moved the files right over for us. We can quit this. We can then come over here and we can say Sqlite3 stock.db, because that's our database. And then we can do a quick SQL statement. Let's just select everything just to make sure that something populated. We know our table name is prices, because that's what we copy and pasted in from right here when we created our table, is we said create table prices, right? And then, oh, like I said, got to put the semicolon on there. And we have lots of data in there. All right, so that wraps up this one. The next video that we do, it'll be coming up very shortly. We're just going to add a couple of controls in place. We're going to add in an automated control, and we're also going to add in a manual control on the data that we're bringing in, just the date side of it. So the manual control will actually cause a change to occur to our window up here. So that will involve a PyQt change. So looking forward to that one. Hope that you all enjoyed this one, and if it was informative and helpful at all, please put a like on there. Feel free to subscribe if you want to know when the next video comes out. After we do that, after we do the controls video, which should be a relatively short one, then we will be going in and getting Excel involved, where we're pulling data out of the database, and we'll start doing these daily reports in this ticker report. And then, as you saw at the beginning of this video, I've kind of thought about we'll do an automatic download. So we'll end up putting another option up here for auto download to go into the site that we want to hit for our data, if that's the way we're going to get it. All right, Control D again to get out of that, and exit to clear it, and we are good. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you next time.